guys, and welcome to Evaluating Expressions. So what you're going to see is you're going to see the directions as they appear here, where it's going to say to evaluate the expression when x or some other variable equals some number. So in our case, we've got x equals 5. We're going to do a couple different examples, as you can see. So this first one here, we are going to do an example of addition. When we're told that x equals 5, we want to use the idea that a variable, although it's represented by a letter, is really acting as a number. Variables really are numbers, we just sometimes don't know what they are. Sometimes they can change numbers. Like if you have this 2 here, this 2 can never change. It can never be anything but a 2. But we could do a problem here where x is 5, like in this example, and then in the next problem we could say that x is 7. That's why we call them variables, because they can change their value. Alright, so let's go over here to the first one. And remember, we're going to use that idea that this x is the exact same thing as 5, and 5 is the same thing as x, so we can just replace all our x's with 5s. So we're going to replace this x with a 5, and then come right over here, and we're just going to keep the rest of it exactly the same. So that plus 2 is going to stay exactly the same. So we end up with 5 plus 2, which of course just gives us 7. Okay? The next one we have subtraction. Notice that the order is different. In the first one that we did, the variable came first. In this one, the variable comes second. Don't worry about that. Remember, variables are just numbers. Numbers are going to be in whatever place. So we're going to replace this x with a 5. That's always the first thing we do. We want to make sure that we show this step, because sometimes if you accidentally make a careless mistake, you can get the wrong answer. But if you show this step, then it can become very clear not only what you do, in case you're on a test and you have a teacher who's trying to give you partial credit, but also it's a really good way to kind of catch yourself if you accidentally make an error. Alright, so we have start out with 15 minus 5, which then of course again gives us 10. Alright, so here we had addition, which we knew because of the plus sign. Here we had subtraction, which we knew because of the minus sign. And now we're going to look at number 3. Now number 3 is a little bit weirder because there's nothing there. There's no plus sign, no minus sign, no sign of any kind to tell us what it is we're doing. When this happens, when you have just a number right next to a variable, it always means multiplication. And that's just something that you have to memorize, that means multiplication, because that's going to be a really important thing all throughout algebra, that you can recognize that. We're going to do the same general thing though. We're going to start by replacing this x with a 5, but we can't just leave it like this, because then we would bring our 6 down and we'd have 65, which we all know did not mean that multiplication took place. So we're going to put always, when we have the multiplication like this, we're going to put our variable in parentheses. So here, instead of just having that 5 come down, it's going to come down in parentheses. And then outside the parentheses, we're going to have our 6, and we have 6 times 5, which is just 30. Alright, so now our last one, we have division. There are several different ways to write division. This is just one of them. And we're going to do exactly the same thing we've been doing. This x is on the bottom, so we're going to start off by drawing our line and putting a 5 on the bottom, and then everything else stays the same. There's a 20 on top, and we do 20 divided by 5, which gives us 4. And that's it. Those are the basics of plugging numbers in and evaluating.